Hey. All right, folks. Rachel Wilkins here. Welcome to Monday Coffee with Artists. We're super excited to have you join us today. And I am thrilled because we have a great guest today. We have the fabulous Lauren J. Reed. So welcome to the show, Lauren.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. So where are you in the world right now?
I'm in Houston, Texas.
Okay, so it's not an ungodly hour to be up and full makeup and ready to go.
No, I'm awake. I wake up early.
Well, that's good. That's unusual for an artist, though.
Yeah, I've always been a morning person. I can't help it.
Well, that's good. I've met a lot of artists that are like morning people and night owls. So just burning that.
Yeah, I'm both. I nap sometimes.
So I had the pleasure of meeting Lauren and her mom out in Houston, where Lauren won the award for excellence, and then again in Austin. She came and did a second show with us at Conception, and just loved your spirit, loved your mom's spirit. I could have stayed and hung out with the two of you for hours. We were chatting up a storm. Just for anybody out there who's not familiar with your work, tell us, a little bit about what it is that you do.
I mostly do drawings and paintings and hand-painted accessories. I'm Choctaw Cherokee, and so a lot of my art has to do with my heritage, but, I'm raised American. I love hip-hop and other musical pop icons, so I incorporate a lot of that into my work as well. But basically, I can paint and draw anything if you want to commission stuff.
Right. Okay. And you had a lot of fabric work when I saw you in Houston. You had work on jackets, beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to paint on jackets, leather, denim, stuff like that.
Nice. Very cool. So let's go like right back to the beginning. I like to kind of start with just growing up. Like, what was your experience like? Obviously, you are Native American. You say Choctaw and Cherokee, right? Tell us a little bit about your historical culture. And your kind of ancestors, and how that works. Because I think you mentioned your mom is Choctaw, right? And then
he's Choctaw. My dad's Cherokee on his side. In Oklahoma, it just seems like almost everybody's mixed Native American, and so that's just kind of like a regular thing that you're used to there. I just had a normal childhood. I was in Norman, Oklahoma. Went to public school. There was some extra learning that I would get through the tribes, and they would come to school and have programs that we would meet, at lunch and learn from elders, stuff like that, special things that you'd get to learn about your culture that you wouldn't otherwise because, they don't really put that in the curriculum. So that was cool. I was, close to my papa, my mom's dad, and he was Choctaw, and he loved my art. And my grandmother, who was Cherokee on my dad's side, she loved my art, and they were both very supportive and proud of that. So that always helped connect me to that. And then I had a friend, shout out to Joaquin. He introduced me to the art out in Santa Fe. And so that was just a huge scene I fell in love with. I was so blown away by the talented artisans, and I just knew I wanted to be a part of that.
That's amazing. So you mentioned your grandparents being supportive of your creativity. Was there anyone who was in your family who was creative that you were maybe influenced by?
Yeah, I would say everybody in my family is creative. My mom's family, her siblings, my sister, her family, like we're all creative. My dad's a musician. They all like to cook and just do different arts and stuff. I've actually got my sister doing collages with me. So that's something new that I started that has been really popular. Most of them are native theme, and they have like Pendleton print and different iridescent touches. So she's doing some of the fine cutting for that, and we got her kids involved and it's just kind of making it a family affair. I try to drag them along with me to the art festivals, which this year is like we don't have any, but next year we're back at it. So we're just stockpiling art now.
That's amazing. It's certainly a great time to be getting in the studio and creating artwork. Are you finding that you're feeling creative or no?
It's been a little scary. It's been a little stressful. I feel like I'm pretty empathic to other people's pain and suffering. So that's been something that's kind of created a lull in my work. But, no matter what's going on, I always work. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I feel more excited about it. Sometimes I feel like, yeah, woo, I'm going to kill this. Oh, I'm so excited. And then sometimes it's just like your job.
Yeah.
And then usually it's somewhere in between the two. I'm finally starting to get my legs underneath me again since this has started. I was smart enough to have a little workout machine in here before this all started. So I'm able to kind of get my wheels turning that way and not go totally stir crazy. I'm used to being a hermit because I am an artist and I'm used to like self-isolation to do my work. But it's been like a little overkill because, I don't want to get sick. So I've been just staying inside and trying to limit, interaction with others.
And that can be challenging in
Yeah.
itself. I think so many of us as artists and creative people, we are naturally more on the introverted side, but then put us in a room full of people with our art and we thrive in that environment as well. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And, you want to see your muses and people that get you all juiced up to do stuff. And you don't want to have to worry about cooties and stuff.
That's too true. So going like way back, so you talked about being creative from a young age. What were you drawn to? What kind of mediums did you create with? You remember?
I did a lot of watercolors when I was little. I really did, paintings, drawings, music, and I started playing the cello at 9. I play violin, violoncello, sing, songwrite, and that's like a little supplemental thing. I was a dancer. I taught dance for several years. Really just anything in the arts. I always have been a huge fan. I've always done art, and I went to school for that. And it was kind of a difficult decision between the three things, but I ended up going with art because I figured that could be something I could do forever. My body hopefully wouldn't give out. I could use my feet if I have to or something, but turn right-handed or something. I don't know, but yeah, you do get fatigued still. Your arms up all day, and then it's like, But so far, so good. I got a BFA at Texas State, and that is in fine art, specializing studio art, painting. So that was a lot of fun, just getting to only paint for a while. And then I took a couple years off from that. I was doing other things, and then fate just brought me back to painting, and that's what I'm doing full time.
That's awesome. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, you and I talked. Obviously, I had the pleasure of meeting your mom during the show in Houston. She was
yeah, at some point.
And I've spoken with a couple of artists this week about familial influences, like people in your family who've really been champions for you, and just been kind of there for you throughout this process. Because I think there's a lot of artists out there that don't have that. And to see the rapport that you have with your mom and how just she was just your biggest fan, right? How would you say that has influenced you, and how important are those relationships?
Well, especially with some of the online stuff that I have to do to get followers and all of that, the mass group of those followers came when I was doing modeling, acting, and musicianship. And it was kind of confusing to my family at first because they didn't really understand why I was posting the way I was posting and what I was posting. But after time and explaining to everybody, like, hey, this is for my business. This gets me attention for my business. And then they were all on board. But basically, they've always been supportive of me. I've been a very willful person since I came out. So whatever I wanted to do, I've always done, no matter who supported it or not. But I was very lucky to get support from my entire family the entire time. I was always allowed to be exactly who I am and always speak my mind. And so I've never questioned or wondered who I am or what I'm about or what I like. I've always been very aware of those things because I had that freedom and that support from my family. So that's awesome. I get support from every single person in my family. sometimes they don't understand like why you cut your hair like that, stuff like that. But it's like, you know, it's brand recognition. You meet me once, you're going to remember me. I have this haircut, you know. It doesn't have to do with my anything but that, you know. I think it's cute or whatever. So it's been kind of funny getting everybody adjusted to like the new way that life is with everything's online. But they're 100% supportive of me, non-judgmental, and just here when I need them, you know.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love what you said about, you know, somebody meeting you and remembering you right away, because that's something that I think we've neglected a little bit as artists, right? If you think back to, you know, many of the art movements, the people that you remember that stand out, they have a certain look, right? Or so, even if it's, you know, a certain type of glasses that Andy Warhol wore, or a certain outfit, like you ultimately will look at them and say, that's an artist, right? You would know that you were an artist in the room. And I think that a lot of people neglect to make that or focus on that. And I think it can be achieved relatively easily by just a
pair of glasses. That's pretty easy, you know. Yeah, and I think that's weird that people don't have more personal interest in that, just because you are so creative and that's what you do professionally. And you know, selling art is a lot having to do with just selling your idea, your energy, your action. And so your buyer wants to feel that personal connection between the artist. And if you're completely invisible, then how are you going to do that? You know, so you are part of that expression, you know, of your work. So yeah, I don't really see a huge difference between me and my work. You know, we're kind of like merged as one thing, as it should be. You know, that's like my fruit of my labor. So yeah, you have to think about branding nowadays because you want people to remember me. The reason I actually did that is I was working as a musician at the time, and I had like a little short blonde hairdo. I looked kind of preppy, or I could, you know, easily look preppy. I worked in schools. I was doing like private orchestra lessons. So I would go into the schools and I needed to kind of blend in somewhat, you know, and teaching dance and stuff. But I was starting to get into music full time and more. And I was at a concert with one of the rappers that I worked with. And I was talking with this other guy who found himself to be a musician too. Yes. And so I see him again the very next night. And I'm with another like dancer friend of mine. And yeah, that guy's going on and on about the rapper, how great he was and all this. I'm like, yeah, you know. And I started talking to him again. And then he didn't remember me. And I just met him last night. Wow. And I'm like, well, you know, I just met you last night. I'm a musician too. And then he was like, you know, you're just another cute blonde chick. That guy's memorable. Okay. Anyways, I was pissed. And so the next day I have my friend Brittany shave the side of my head like that. And nobody forgot me after that at all, you know? And I thought, hell, that's all you have to do, you know? Simple.
And it's not, it doesn't have to be something as drastic as shaving half of your head, right?
No, it doesn't. No.
Right. Just because certain people that just dress a certain way and they make sure that every time they do a show, they dress that way. So you're showing up as the artist. And I think it's great what you said about, you know, it is kind of your work is an extension of you, right? Mm-hmm. And for example, when somebody perhaps has your piece on their wall, they want to be able to tell stories, right? They want to be able to give information about you because you're the reason that piece is on the wall.
Yeah. And I like to kind of have some pieces that have background on them. You know, I'll do a lot of like figures from history, or even if they were just a random native person who had their photo taken, you know, 100 years ago, I try to find out the info on that and pass that along to the buyer. A lot of the shows that I do, even though they're buyers there for native art, they don't know anything about genocide or history, anything. A lot of them are European. And you think they would know, but, you know, they don't teach about it. And so I like to talk about all that stuff. And, of course, my friends are like, don't talk about genocide at the show, you know. And I'm like, hey, you know, they're very interested and they want to know about my culture. I'm going to tell them what I know, you know. So that's fun to me. I like that. You get to tell stories and become friends with the people. And I'm definitely missing the shows this summer already because I would have had my first one last weekend, the Houston Art and Music Festival. It's gotten postponed to, I think, September now. It's already had another date that they pushed again. So I don't know what the culture is going to be like after this. Are people going to feel comfortable? A lot of the buyers are elderly, a lot of them travel from far away to come to the shows. And, you just have to go with it and just keep doing you and pray that it just all works out.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a whole different art world when the dust settles and we're able to actually get back out there. I think it's going to be a totally different experience. And you're absolutely right. The buyers are a certain demographic.
Yeah,
a lot in their 60s and 70s. So that's
an older
good point.
Yeah, and those are the people who aren't used to buying online. So the shows and people like you are trying to help get the word out that, hey, we're still working, we still need your support in the arts. The art's important, don't forget about it. And to just, for me and my artist friends, to just keep going. Don't give up. Don't get discouraged. Just have faith like you always do. Because, living as a full-time artist, you never know where your next meal is going to come from. You can try to save up money, but then you want to invest in your business. So it's kind of a hard kind of lifestyle anyways. And then when something like this happens, it could really rattle your faith. But I'm just staying totally positive, and everything's been cool so far.
Good.
So far, so good.
No.
And the checks start coming out today, I hear.
What is it?
The checks, the stimulus checks. They're coming out today. Some people got them already.
Well, that's good. I'm not holding my breath, but
it's happening. If you paid your taxes in the last 2 years and you didn't make over $75K, then you're golden.
No, that is a good thing. And I emphasize this a lot, but I think we just have to stay in the moment. Like, we have to keep our head where our feet are right now, deal with what comes on a daily basis, and whatever will happen will happen. So
yeah, no reason to wig out, and just keep having faith. People need to see beautiful creation now more than ever, see something beautiful on their timeline, brighten their day, and me and my artist friends were like still just pumping it out. We're pumping it out every day.
That's awesome. So let's go back to the shows. So we were talking about the big festivals in Santa Fe, and you and your mom were telling me all about these, and I was excited to maybe get out there this year. So there's these huge festivals. Tell us about them.
Yeah, the one that is the big one is SWAIA. It's Southwest American Indian Art. And this year, this August, was supposed to be the 99th year. So it's a really big deal leading up to that 100th year. And now it's been postponed an entire year. So the 99th year is going to be next year. So I'll automatically be accepted into that. And thankfully, I didn't pay my booth fee yet, but they are issuing returns to those who did. Yeah, which is good because not all of the shows are doing that. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's wild. The show itself is just immaculately gorgeous. All of the artists are just literally beyond talented. When I first went there in 2015, I was so blown away. It's just incredible that people can create things that are so perfect just with their hands. It really didn't look like human-made stuff. Wow. One year, a lady was next to me. She had one pot. That's all she had in her booth, and it was about, say, this big. And she won second place. And about an hour goes by. I had the most wonderful chat with her mom or grandmother, elder. She was just kicking knowledge the whole time. We were like, I'm like holding her and like crying, like moments. Okay. She was so sweet. And then she sold her pot, and it was $80,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's another guy that was down, and she went home after that. She was just there an hour. It's a weekend show. Sell out your booth, you got to check out. Yeah. So the rest of the time is like party time. But some of these people live on reservations. They're supporting their entire family. They rely on this show. So like, say for instance, you didn't get in that year, or you didn't do well, or you didn't sell your one pot, like you're screwed, So I'm worried some about those people. But yeah, some people make freaking $1 million at that show. Not me, of course,
wow.
but I'm, working my way up the ladder slowly. I'm just thankful this was going to be, I guess, my 5th time in the show, 5th year. Yeah. There's another show that goes on in tandem with SWAIA called Edge. Edge Contemporary. And this would have been my 5th year in that too. It's really cool. You don't have to actually be in SWAIA to be in that show, even though it's in tandem with it. You just have to be Native. You have to be in a federally enrolled tribe. And anyways, it's like the top 30 contemporary Native artists. And so that show's really cool. Last year's theme was something like women's empowerment or something having to do with strong women. It was awesome. And, they have fashion and beadwork and, models wearing the fashions and paintings and drawings. And it's a really, really hip show. I think one of the most cutting edge shows that's out there because of the subject matter. This year was supposed to be like warriors passing down tradition. So all the work that I plan on making for the show is going to kind of be in that theme. So I was excited to do more collaborations with my family because that kind of works in that theme some. And but now I have another year to prepare for it and everything. But it's really crazy because it's a pretty small town, but during that time of year, it gets flooded and Europeans fly in on their private jets and they buy out stuff and they fly off. And you'll be opening your booth and it's like a garage sale where people are there early. They're ready to get in there. Yeah. I've seen several people sell out their booths. I've never sold out my booth, but never know. Someday, if you win a ribbon on Friday night, then maybe Saturday morning you sell out your booth.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean,
yeah, it's easy.
So it's really kind of a cross section of every genre, every medium of art, right?
It really is. Yeah, they have sculpting and basketry, jewelry, beading, painting, drawing, diverse. They even have multimedia category, like little short film stuff. And there's a whole bunch of Native film stuff that goes on that entire week as well. It's a huge party. It's awesome. There's like 1,000 artists in the show. Wow. It starts at the center of the plaza and it spreads out. So I was always on the northeast corner plaza, but this year I requested to move to Lincoln Street because that seems like the new hot place to be. So I got moved over there. So we'll see how that turns out next year. But yeah, and I have several other shows that I usually do in Oklahoma with Chickasaw Nation, Red Earth, Cherokee show. And I don't know the status. The Artesian Market with Chickasaw Nation, that's been canceled. That was supposed to be in May. And then the soonest one that I have that hasn't been canceled yet is in June in Oklahoma City, and that is the Red Earth Festival. Last year, I took first in watercoloring. So, yeah, I was shocked. Okay. There's this wonderful also Choctaw artist, Norma Howard, who was not there. So I won. If she was there, I would have gotten second.
You don't know that.
Oh my gosh. This woman, okay, she started out doing miniatures. Okay, like teeny, like stamp size stuff with like a baby sable hair eyelash. Okay, one hair. And now she does watercolors. So she'll take that same technique and put it into a full watercolor piece. So like literally there's tiny blades of grass, like a million of them. It doesn't look like a human made it.
Wow.
And a lot of these people who are winning are elders. They are maybe as old as 80 or something. They're national treasures. Like they're killing it. And it's really fun to talk with them because they're so sweet and they want to help you. They want to continue the tradition and everything. So they always kick me all this knowledge. And I just love seeing them. And so, yeah, my mom likes to go to the shows. My sister was going to come this year. But, things happen. We're just rolling with the punches. But hopefully next year, people will want to go out to these festivals. If they say, hey, we haven't had any new cases in this amount of time, I'm hoping no one will be scared and they'll just come out,
I hope so, too.
I don't know.
I mean, our business is at a complete standstill because of, obviously events. But the gift of being able to do things like this for me is amazing. When do I ever get to spend time with the artists and really kind of get to know you guys and, celebrate your work. So this has been a nice, happy, positive outcome. So
Yay! I know, I agree. And everything's going virtual anyways. The art galleries are kind of shriveling up here and there over the years, and art sales are mostly done online now. So that's going to be the continuing trend, especially with the coronavirus stuff. So
I think so too.
Just rolling with it.
We're just rolling. So I was thinking, you talked about the folks that come through your booth, and obviously, there's folks who are just fanatical about Native artwork, right? I've seen it. I've seen the reaction, and obviously, these people fly in from all over the world to see this work and celebrate it. I mean, you mentioned that you do take the opportunity to talk about the reality of the history and genocide.
Yes.
Would you mind sharing on that? Just because I think there's probably a lot of people out there that don't understand the history or don't know the history. And imagine you're standing in a gallery talking about it now, and take this opportunity.
It's a difficult topic, and I'll try to not become too emotional, but
and look, Lauren, it's only if you're comfortable. Seriously.
Yeah, no, I'll talk about it. It's fine. And people need to know this stuff. It's a damn shame that they don't tell more of that in your schooling. Biggest genocide of all time was here in the Americas. It wasn't just, oh, here's Canada line, United States line, Mexico. This was one big turtle island. And then the Spaniards came over and they occupied. And so that's how we got Mexicans, because the natives and the Spaniards came together. And like me, I'm white and I'm native. So we're all a melting pot. I love everybody. But history is a story that happened, and they estimate over 100 million Native Americans were slaughtered in the founding of this country, which is far bigger than anything Hitler ever did or anything like that. And that was right here. And then they gave us small reservations where, with the Removal Act, you're supposed to live on these small reservations, right? Well, my tribe, they haven't had a reservation in like hundreds of years, because they actually came and took it again. And basically what they would say is like, okay, you do you. Of course, they wanted you to assimilate. So they did kidnap the children and take them and put them in schools where they were abused and their hair was cut. And they were forced to have a Christian name and become Catholic. And a lot of the children were murdered. They were allowed to come, home for Christmas, like to visit, and then they have to go right back, or, your parents might get killed if you don't comply. And you can look all of that stuff up and look at some of the horrible photos of those poor, miserable children. It's very sad. And they did that. They killed all the buffalo. They gave and didn't use any of it, just killed it because it was their source to eat. They said we're nomads or whatever, because basically we didn't have anywhere to live because they forced us off. With the Removal Act, they made you leave where you were killed. You had the long Trail of Tears that was very hard, and many people died. They were given blankets with smallpox. Each tribe has its own horror stories that I've heard. And the saddest thing about that, well, I mean, it's hard to say, it's all sad, but one of the saddest things is how it's continued today, the racism today. Native Americans are most likely to be murdered by the police. They have thousands of missing, murdered Indigenous people. Every day there's more in the Americas. Many times the police are not motivated to help find them or bring justice for them, because they're involved, and also because they're racist and they find them to be disposable. Their excuse, oh, well, you're on the res, you're a different nation. I was actually hesitant to even get my license plate. I can get a license plate that says, my Choctaw license plate, and it's official through the tribe. But I heard some horror stories about people who couldn't get roadside assistance when they were in an accident and someone struck them because of it. It's really scary. I know people whose family members have been murdered, several of them. They're all unsolved because they're native, they're brown. I was always, given white privilege because I'm so pale. But I know all too well, having lots of friends who do not have pale skin, what they've been through. So I feel very strongly that people do their own research and try to educate themselves about these things. Some of the racial slurs, some of the stories I heard from my own mother about her childhood, it's very upsetting and very sad. And I would like to see a change in the future, to see these people as very sacred and something worth preserving and respecting. There's continuously a fight with the oil pipelines wanting to come through on their land and build their pipelines, which surely all fail and contaminate the water. If you look at where the pipelines are and you look at where the water sources are, they follow right along there. And it's really scary because once our resources become more and more scarce, like we're even seeing now with this COVID, that puts us in a position where we're reliant on the government. And as a Native person, we know our history. You don't want to be reliant on the government. Those reservations are ghettos. A lot of them is no clean water, no running water. Right now with the COVID, they're all getting sick and they're not getting the help that they deserve. Navajo Nation is having a lot of people there. I think they've lost 26 people, something like 400 of them are sick. I want to say all Navajo Nation's around 200,000. That it's a large area. So it's scary a little bit, and it's sad. There's a lot of information that you can seek out and learn about, and I encourage everyone to do that because this is where you live, and you need to know the history here, and you need to know going forward what's going on so you can get involved to help.
I thank you, first of all, for sharing that so candidly and openly. I think that there's so many people that do not know this story. And for me, growing up in a different country and moving here and getting to know, Native artists, and then discovering that this is not in the textbooks in schools is like the Germans leaving out the Holocaust. Like,
yeah, it's worse. It's a bigger Holocaust.
Right. It's shocking to me that that's not a part of your education here, like just general education. Like, how do you leave that out? How can you omit that? And then at the same time, purchase Native art or, be fanatic about or even appropriate the Native culture, which we see so much, right? I mean, how does
a lot of those people who buy Native art are really like old white racist people. And so it's kind of weird and funny. And at some of the events, you kind of feel like you're not invited there, even though you're the artist, because you're like one of the brown people. And that's kind of weird.
Beyond weird.
We all make jokes about it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird for sure.
How does that feel?
Bad. It makes you think, well, whatever, I'll just shove out a ticket for $225 and show up there. You know what I mean? Like, I want to meet these buyers. Yeah, and it's kind of the way things are done, and it's kind of, but no, it's stupid, It's really stupid. And I hate racism, like, so much. I think it is really, really stupid, and it shows that you are stupid if you are racist. I can understand if a particular person or group targeted you, maybe being a little racist, but everything is like every person has good to them. Everything is a relationship to relationship basis, and I don't think that it's smart to just judge a whole race of people because you're uninformed, you know? So I'm hoping people will change. I think that the younger generations are less racist, but it just depends on what you're exposed to. If you're really sheltered and you're around a bunch of ignorant people, then unfortunately you grow up to be that too.
Mm-hmm.
But there are hard lessons that you will learn, and then you'll think, oh, I'm going to change.
Right.
And I've seen it.
You know, I feel like that's why it's so important to have these conversations publicly. You know, and it's so important what you're doing at the shows by telling the truth, telling the story, not just the, you know, the pretty stories about growing up, you know, people growing up on reservations and the beauty and the art and the passion. Like you're telling the truth. You're telling the real stories, and people need to hear that.
Yeah, they were really targeted, you know, and they built those reservations, and then right next to them, liquor stores and candy stores and all of that. And so everybody was just getting eaten up by liquor, and it's still a problem, huge problem. And sugar, you know, diabetes, soda, metabolic syndrome. There are things that we just didn't have here, you know. So when the Europeans brought that over, illnesses, they couldn't say, hey, like, close the borders, you know. That wasn't a thing that happened. They welcomed them in. They tried to help them through the winter because they were starving to death. And then, you know, they saw that they were giving people and that they weren't consumerism obsessed. So they wanted to pillage and rape their lands. And it continues today. That's what the pipeline is. That's what the drilling's about, you know. And so I think it's a really funny time in history because we're starting to find out that maybe consumerism isn't all that it shakes out to be, because right now stuff's really hitting the fan, and people are starting to think, oh man, I could die, or my family could die. I really love my family. I think maybe love is more important than money. I think maybe the arts are important. I think there's something important here to encapsulate, you know, this history, this expression, and to document a mirror of what's going on right now, you know, at all times. And that's what the artist does. So I'm hoping people will start to just kind of help one another, love one another, come together as one, because we really are all in this together. Mm-hmm. So there's no amount of money that would help you not be sick if you're on a ventilator. You know, like, there's certain things that money can't buy. So a piece of your heart is really more valuable, you know?
100%. So how do you, as a young person who clearly has this strong tie to your heritage and your community, and, you know, a passion for just overcoming what is clearly still rampant in these communities, how do you take that, clearly being someone who wears her heart on her sleeve, like, how do you take that heaviness and take it forward as something positive?
For many years, I would cry, and I could not talk about it without crying. And if I heard other stories from my Native friends that I would make, I would cry and just hold them, hug them, pray for them. Now, and I've thought a lot about how can I be proactive? How can I help out? And the one thing I have is followers, you know. So, and I have this platform like we're on right now. I can get on the internet and I can talk about it. And a lot of people who didn't know anything about cultural misappropriation, things like that, like, they start talking to me about it, and then they start learning and changing and becoming more culturally sensitive. And I think that's good. You know, with the missing and murdered Indigenous people, I try to make work in that themes sometimes, pretty often. And I'll share on a bunch of groups. If I see somebody's missing, I'll try to share to some of the groups that I'm in. I'll share on my page. I'll reach out to people in that area that I know to share. That's something anybody can do. You know, there are a lot of these pages that are documenting it because really they don't even know how many are going missing. They're being sold into sex trading. I don't know if they're being harvested. A lot of them are young, and it's not just natives. You know, you'll see it with the African Americans as well. And it's really freaking scary. So it could happen to anybody. And it's not just women either. It's young men as well. And just sharing, just telling people the knowledge about it that you've got can help save somebody. You know, if you're sharing somebody's missing and it's just happening, oh, geez, let's stay on it, you know. And I wish that there was more that I could do, but I'm going to have to just expand my thinking on that so that I can become more proactive. You know, there's a lot of protesting and stuff going on at the sites where they're trying to do the drilling and take away reservations still. Yeah, they started doing this thing where they unenroll people, you know, and they have blood quantum. We're the only race in the world that has to have papers, you know, and blood quantum to prove that you are who you are. Some of the tribes, Cherokees, they don't have blood quantum. They say one drop, and you know, it's how you live your life and who your community is, and that makes you native, you know. If you go by blood quantum and you mix and you assimilate like you're supposed to, and you get more and more not native, then eventually it reaches a number that you're considered no longer native, and then they can take your land away, and then they can have all your mineral rights and all of that. And there's fights back and forth because now natives are starting to get money that's not from the government through the casinos. And so they're fighting, trying to take the casinos away. You know, I mean, you name it, you know. So they want the land. They want you out. They want you dead. And it's 500 years now. And so there's always something new that pops up that the native community bands together to try to stop, which is awesome because before they didn't really have internet, and now we're all online. We're all online and we're all together. There's a group right now that's a lot of fun, social distance powwows. And we can't have our powwows this season. We can't dance together, but everybody's getting on there. They're putting their videos of their dancing. The artist friends are posting what they would have at the booth, and we're all trying to support one another. And that's been really fun. That's grown to like maybe 150,000 people since this whole COVID thing started. So groups like that are cool, you know, to connect you in, and anyone is welcome, you know, if you're interested in that kind of thing. So
it's just amazing and astounding to me that such an oppressed, tortured community can still be so creative and put so much beauty and light and hope and love out to the world. Like,
well, they are beautiful people. You know, they're sacred people. They live within their means with the earth. They don't take more than they need. They respect their women. They respect their elders. They really live in the footsteps with nature, as we all should, just like an animal. You know, we all have the same right to be here. And, you know, the people who are here are survivors. You know, these are people whose family went through the Trail of Tears. They've been through the Removal Act. You know, they have had horrible trauma, and they're still here. We still remain, and we shall remain. And that's one of the things that makes them a really beautiful people. You know, they are such an ancient group of people that they've had so long to perfect their craft, generation to generation. I mean, 10,000 years this family made pots. 10,000 years they wove those rugs, and you'll never see anything like it. You know, it's incredible. I'm lucky that I do the paintings and drawings because, you know, they had paintings like on caves and stuff. But their pottery and their weaving and their jewelry, like that has been very advanced this whole time, you know, so it's just immaculate. Like that stuff's just gorgeous. So I'm in love with the people. They have a very at home feeling to them, you know, a different kind of family vibe. and there's some sadness to them, but there's that survival in them and that warrior spirit. And so we all stick together and we love everybody and we just want good things for the world. We want to protect the earth. Nothing wrong with that, right?
What a novel concept.
Yeah.
Wow. So just thank you for just sharing so deeply and so passionately about it. I think that you're such a beacon for the young community to provide that knowledge and educate your fellow artist community, because it's so vital and so important that this is not forgotten, that it is talked about.
Yeah, and it's continued.
Yeah.
Because our elders are going to be passing on in the next 20 years. A lot of those masters are going to have gone on, but thankfully they have family who have continued in the arts like they have for thousands of years. So, and even the leaders in the shows, they realize it's important to keep the younger people coming, keep them involved. So they like to give us ribbons and just words of encouragement and things, and allow us to be in the show even though we may be new there, and take us under their wings. It's been great to learn from the elders and different people about, just slang and art since the 70s and things like that, and the way things have changed. And it's pretty romantic in that way. And it's great to bond with those other artists. And I just I'm going to miss it this summer, not getting to go out there.
I hope you get to do something virtually, like there's a way that that can be celebrated, or perhaps some online selling even.
Yeah, they're trying to promote that, and they had a little questionnaire they sent out about doing a virtual show, but I just don't know, because the buyers are so old, and and a lot of them from overseas and things like that. And but they did do a little post to shout out, because each artist at Swaya has their own page on their website, and you can contact us through that for commissions or purchasing and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm hopeful. But it's just like, let's hunker down and we'll get back to business, just keep creating and hope for the best.
It has to come around. We don't know when, but it will. And we have to be ready. So we use this time wisely, right, to get creative.
Yeah. So I've just been like brainstorming in my head, like, what am I going to make? And how can this be more fabulous? Have to beat everyone.
Right. So you talked a little about, with your work, like the influences of your work. Obviously, this huge influence of your history and your culture, but there's also pop culture, right? That's prevalent in your work. I mean, I've seen pieces of your work that kind of blend the two together. You've got some rappers in there. You have a lot of kind of hip hop references. Tell me how that's received, in terms of how is that received from the traditional, more native audience versus just the general kind of public that look at your work?
Well, I think it's really fun. Like the shows, like the conception art show, I get to bring both of those. So I get to show my full art spectrum at shows like that, which I think is really fun and really awesome, because that really encompasses me. That's a big mixture of things. A lot of natives really, who are younger especially, they really love hip hop culture. The ghetto and the res isn't really that much different. Their struggles are very much the same as the African American struggles. And so, plus, you're American. Everybody who's American grew up on hip hop and MTV, since, that came out, and it was the hot thing. And so I always loved rap music. My first rap album I bought, I was in second grade. Like, I always loved rap. I've been in rap groups, and I did hip hop dancing, and I taught it, and I did it a lot, and did choreography for other artists. And so that was always a big part of my life. I always loved that stuff. And so, of course, like-minded people will find my work and like my work too. So it's fun to mix those things up. And one of the things that I've always enjoyed about art is that I'm in control. I can do whatever I want. there are no rules. Even though I do native art, which is a traditional theme in general, I'm very contemporary for native art. In fact, when I first came out doing my native art in about 2014, 15, a lot of people hated it, and they were like kind of pissed off about it, like it was radical or something, because like I use like more than the traditional colors or something. It wasn't even weird, which is funny. And now that's like really coveted more. And so nobody really says anything to me about it, which I think is cool. Nobody like gets mad or whatever. Sometimes people get mad about stuff that I make, which I find very odd, or they get mad about how I advertise, which I think is very odd. Like, why is anyone getting mad? I think it's kind of funny, but yeah, some artists get really pigeonholed into what they make. There's some different artists that I actually love their work, but like one, for instance, they only paint hands. It's like a tattooed hand or a messed up nail polish hand holding a whiskey glass, but that was like it, and they're great big and they're awesome, and I'm sure they're getting tons of cash, but I would just be devastated. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be trapped that way. And so I literally just make whatever I want. And then when I get commissions, I make whatever you want. So I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. Usually it's something in my wheelhouse. It's not something, I mean, sometimes it's something stupid or crazy, but I don't care. It's all the same thing to me, really. But yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to figure out, like, what am I going to make today that might sell, that somebody might like? Who's my audience? Who can I reach who might want this? Is this a pop culture? Is this a now moment thing? People started painting toilet paper rolls and COVID mask or little COVID cootie, like, I'm not going to do that, but some of the trends I will hop in on. I like to do a lot of memorial pieces. Most of the paintings I do, I just realized are like of dead people. But, I like to bring them to life. And that's really fun and special, especially for a commission piece, because, if you've lost your loved one and that brings a little bit of their spirit into your home. And I think that's sweet and special. So that's kind of my favorite thing to do. But I like wildlife art. I love animals. I love painting animals. And who could get mad about that? You know what I mean? Everybody likes animals. So that's kind of a crossover Western art kind of thing. And but yeah, I mean, I love what I love. So I just like to paint those things,
And for anyone who's wondering, like Lauren said about, the colors that she uses being maybe a little radical, they're super vibrant, right? That's kind of when I look at your work, it was either really bright pinks and greens and yellows, or it's this black and white, right? Like there was kind of a juxtaposition.
Kind of but even in that way, it's like graphic, I used to like to make art that I was inspired by some of the art in the 60s that was just like really clashing and would like hurt your eyes to look at. And I used to like to do that. At this point, I like to bring as much vibrancy and energy and punch into my work as I can, but I don't want it to hurt your eyes. And in native art, they love bright colors. So that's cool. More and more neon has become like part of the traditional regalia and stuff like that, when of course we didn't have that before, so I think that's pretty awesome. And my bright colors are always really well received in the native community, and really in general the contemporary art in native circles is now totally celebrated. They like that, but it used to be like, oh, whoa, nothing political. You couldn't even bring those pieces to your show. I was in a show that got shut down because it was political.
Wow.
The city shut it down, fire marshal, over some political stuff. So, and it wasn't even like anything was happening really,
That's wild.
Yeah, but that was years ago, and now that's more celebrated. It's more like, let's talk about that, which is great because the buyers are still there. They're still there, so it's fine.
So we don't have a huge amount of time left, although I could talk to you all day about this stuff. But just, you had some personal challenges the last couple of years that you shared some things with me. How did that impact you creatively?
Well, and I think I've realized through some of my negative life traumas that everybody has them. And so it's made me be more forgiving, and it's made me be more loving to others. If your best friend dies or you get cancer, or you have to come to terms that your friends and family and animals and everything that you love is dying, and poof, they could be gone. It's hard to wrap your mind around, but after some time and it settles, then you start to think, you know what, I better get up. I better be thankful. I better smile. I better I better pray. I better do better, because they would want that for me. Everyone who's invested in me is believing in me, and they would want that for me. All my loved ones want that for me. And I have to be my best, because these other people didn't get the chance. And now it's my turn. I'm doing this for my ancestors. I'm doing it for my best friend, for my dog. I'm doing it for anybody and everybody who doesn't get the opportunity. So in that sense, we're all very, very blessed. We're all here today. We could be on a ventilator. We're not. So really, when it comes to like complaining or feeling bummed out, I kind of give myself a small limit. Like, okay, today you can lay in bed all day, but tomorrow you're going to work out and you're going to paint a painting, and just not to be too hard on yourself either, because if you're hard on yourself, you're not going to make consistent progress. You're going to mess up, and then you're going to spend the rest of the time self-loathing, and you're not going to get your work done. Lots of people tell me, I don't know how you live the way that you live. Here I am with this secure job, and many of those people may be unemployed today. I live continuously on faith. For some damn reason, for 5 years, I've been able to do what I want all day and all night, and just produce what things I manifest on my own and flip a profit for it. Now, just because there's a virus going on, I refuse to believe anything else, and so far it's worked. So I'm just hoping to continue doing that, and to not have any more traumatic experiences for as long as possible. But even when they come, I try to just think I'm not in control of these things. I just have to kind of let go and go with the flow of it. And death is the most natural thing there is. It's very natural, and we have to just accept that it's part of life. It's very sad when we'll miss those people. And that's a everyday struggle. But you still have to just keep going on, and if you're just going to be sad, those people are going to be very mad at you for that, because they would not be like that. They would be out there riding their motorcycle and making love, and you name it. They're going to do all of it. So, I just try to think of those people who love me, who passed on, and even the health struggles I've had, and just forget about it, and just throw my hands up in the air and just like, let's have fun, because what does it matter? I mean, really, it's what you make of it.
100%. I mean, just beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for you're such a beacon of positivity. You really are. And, I knew that when I met you in Houston, and I knew that when I met your mom as well. And just, for you both to be at such a vulnerable time, which it was, you both had experienced loss very recently, and, to be able to stand strong and, show your creativity and be so passionate, and more importantly, the fact that you encourage that from others is just a beautiful thing. You're a symbol of hope for them. And I think you're a symbol of hope for, your community and your heritage and your elders. And I think you're just a great, wonderful artist, a wonderful person, and a wonderful example of somebody who is truly following their heart and truly just living the artist life and thriving. So thank you for being here. And
Thank you.
we appreciate it. And let's see if there's any questions for Lauren. There's a lot of comments, so let's go over here and see. If anyone has any questions for Lauren, please jump on in. We're here for a few more minutes. I'm going to go right back here. Okay. Love Lauren's positivity. Me too. All right, what is this one? This was early on. Okay, yes, we are interested in your in your history. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You must find that a lot. I mean, I'm sure when you tell these stories that people they want to hear it, right?
They're shocked, and a lot of people start crying, and then we like hug and stuff, and I cry. Because there's more personal stories too. You know, you can get down to each little family story and each tribe story, and they're all very, very sad.
Kai Brent, that whole weekend is fun. That's that weekend I think that you were talking about out in Santa Fe.
Indian market, yeah, it's party time.
Okay, what is this one? Native Americans are sacred. It's a shame that most of the country either is too ignorant or to see or too racist.
They just need educating, you know.
Yep.
If you're taught from a child to revere something, you will.
Yep. So this is a long one. The Wheelwright Museum in Santa Fe and Birch Bark Books in Minneapolis honor the art of the indigenous people. Writers share their words and books can be reprinted in plenty. However, for the artist whose medium is canvas, how hard is it to part with something that has been an emotional outpour and to some degree sacred? The white people history in the US has been to buy the talents of people of color and display them in their homes that, as Lauren just said, may never be in the homes of the... Can't see the rest of the comment, unfortunately. Let me see if I can see that on Facebook. I'll let you answer that, Lauren.
Well, me personally, I have no emotional connection to the pieces for the most part. I literally create them not knowing who I'm working for, but I put the same amount of love and respect and good vibes into every piece. And then eventually they find who they're made for. And typically my collector is a wonderful human being. I don't sell to mean racist people, you know. I sometimes change my rates to who I feel like the piece goes for, because I'll feel like, oh, this is for you. You know, it's like they are meant for each other, and I can see it. You know, it's really a bizarre experience. It's really beautiful.
What does this say here? So important to look at how writing the history books used by the educational system. Yeah.
That needs a huge overhaul, to say the least.
I hope that there is people advocating for that. So this is if you require anyone watching, if you require immediate support, please contact the National Independent Toll. There's a telephone number here to speak to a counselor. It's available in English and a variety of different languages. Absolutely. And if there's anywhere, Lauren, that you want to give a shout out to any organizations where people can go if they want to either help or people who are looking for help.
Yeah, there are several groups online: missing and murdered Indigenous women, missing and murdered Indigenous people. Seek out those groups. They're the people who are posting who's missing every day. Selena Not Afraid also was a girl that was killed recently, and she has a page, and a lot of people are posting on her page. So that would be also a good place if you are trying to help with some of the people who are going missing. There's also a lot of abuse going on, but it's mostly from white people, not the native people abusing. But there's a lot of domestic abuse as well.
Actually, here's a comment just about that. Native American women experience much higher rates of violence than non-native. According to the National Institute of Justice, 84% of Native women experience violence in their lifetime. 56% experience sexual violence.
I think it's actually even higher than that.
An astounding 97% were victimized by non-native perpetrators. Jesus.
That's what I'm saying, because they know they can get away with it.
That is really, well, okay, so Jan is a dear friend. She also works in, what would you say, Jen? What kind of work, Jen? What kind of work is Jan involved in? She's involved in...
just everything to help people. I think she's involved with domestic violence and advocating for victims and things like that. So one of the reasons the rates of violence against Native American women are so high is that federal law limits tribal courts' jurisdiction to criminally prosecute non-native people
who commit crimes on tribal lands. Historically, the U.S. government limited tribal jurisdiction on the grounds that non-natives would not receive fair treatment in tribal courts, but federal prosecutors who have the power to prosecute these crimes rarely do. Prosecuting violence against Native women is not a priority.
Well, speaking from personal experience, when I was sexually assaulted, I did not get any justice from my judicial system. And after a year of court, going back and forth where I was mostly tortured and nothing happened to him, that's how it remained. And he continues to rape and abuse today. Yeah. So I'm not saying don't try to get help, don't try to stand up, but it didn't work too good for me. And I know several Native women, almost all of them have been raped.
Staggering. Are there any, activist groups? Are there any support groups where anybody who may be suffering can go for help?
There's millions of them, millions. So just type it up, boop, 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 Google. What Jan posted, those counselors you can talk with. There's several outlets out there. I think just if you can remember to love yourself, don't put yourself in any kind of situations. Don't walk along the highway of tears. Don't be by yourself. Do not drink alcohol. Do not take drugs. When you're young, don't just act like a twerp and run off, go to school, try to be your best, stay close to your family, stay close to your elders, because they really do care about you the most. So they will protect you, hopefully, but depend on yourself. Even when you're young, protect yourself. Don't put yourself in situations. Don't go off with friends that you might not need to trust. A lot of these people are getting killed by groups of friends over drugs, things like that as well. So just beware, take care of yourself, protect yourself. As a young single woman, I don't go out at night by myself. I don't go places to get gas by myself at night. I think about all of that stuff. I make sure nobody's following me. You always have to be aware of your surroundings. I don't feel like I'm targeted like the other Native women are because I don't live on a reservation, and I've been in situations that are bad, so I know how to recognize them and I avoid them at all costs. I don't get in any shenanigans. I'm here at my house doing my work. So, I just stay away from those types of situations. I don't drink alcohol, rarely ever, maybe like a beer a month, if that. And I get heartburn, so I can't. But, greenery is cool and everything, but I just stay away from pharmaceuticals as much as I can too. I'm trying to respect my body the way I try to respect others in the earth, and if you just remember that and you just don't trust people too much, then hopefully you'll be okay, but if you're not okay, don't suffer in silence. Stand up for yourself, get away out of the situation, talk to somebody, tell somebody. Your voice matters, you matter. Suicide's another big problem in the community, which is just so unfortunate because these people are so valuable. They're sacred people, and your ancestors worked so hard to stay alive. So you're very important. Don't forget it just because somebody didn't tell you that day. Know it inside that you have this warrior spirit and you are worthy of everything that's beautiful and wonderful that's here. And I hope that people can get inspired by me. That's like my greatest blessing, to be able to inspire others. And I think that's why I'm here. So I just hope to always continue to do that and just make everybody that I love proud. And if everybody does that and everybody's nice to each other, then we'll have a wonderful environment.
100%. I agree with everything you said, especially about, for young women out there, or women of any age, really. You do have to, we just instinctively have to act a certain way to protect ourselves. And
yeah, you always have to think about it.
Right. And it's just a huge societal, generational problem that I always look over my shoulder if I'm on a dark street by myself. And I think that just men don't have to worry about that issue, right? It's just
they never think about it. In fact, I've asked several men, like, do you think about this? Do you think about this? And they say, no, I've never thought about that. I've never even thought about that for women in my life. And they did a survey. There's people in other countries who feel safe, like women in other countries that feel safe at night by themselves. But our country, none of us did. And it said that in the survey.
It's crazy. It really is crazy.
And that's men's responsibility. Like, they need to be better, because it's not women attacking people, it's men.
Right. We need to be better at educating boys and, letting men know what's acceptable. And, it's just, it shouldn't be this, we shouldn't have to live in this fear, and it sounds like if nobody's being held accountable, particularly in your community, like the victims of your community, but the people outside who are coming in and taking advantage, nobody's being held accountable, it's going to continue. There has to be some action up top to make this change.
And overall, women are on the very bottom of society. And if you're a Native woman, then you're even a little further down in some cases, which is so ridiculous, because we are literally one of the most exotic breeds of women that there are. We're revered for it all over Europe. And yet we're abused. We're not disposable, we're sacred. And if you teach your young boys to have respect and to, respect the earth, respect themselves, respect their mother, respect their sister, respect all other people, then you would think that they would have respect. But if all they do is look at TV violence and game violence and their violence in their family and their community and their friends, then all they know is that. So it's everybody's responsibility to help educate people how to act right. And it's unfortunate, but a lot of people are very disturbed, and a lot of people are on weird pharmaceuticals or other drugs that alter their thoughts. So that's scary too. But you can just control yourself and a little bit of stuff around you. So as long as you try to just protect those things and keep them safe, then hopefully, it'll be okay. I don't live in fear. No. I don't. I refuse.
I'm with you, but it's still just a natural instinct sometimes. And unfortunately, if you're on the dark street and there's somebody, a guy, quite often I would cross over. I remember being in my 20s in New York, and quite often that would happen, and I would be out of there as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'll run. I don't care. Right. I'm out of there. Yeah, I'm out of there. I just literally had this conversation with my mom yesterday. She was like, oh, well, I was running, and I'm like, first of all, don't leave the house. And then she was like, I was running and I saw some people. So, I turned the other way, and, that's rude or whatever. I was like, what? No, COVID or no COVID, if you're running and you see somebody, go the other way. Like, that's just how I am, how I feel. Like, if I'm out on the street, I don't want anyone to see me, get near me. Like,
it's protection.
Here, right? Like, I've lived by myself since I was 17 years old, for the most part. Almost every apartment I've had, there's some sort of creepy peeping Tom, leaving dead roses at my door, like always somebody creepy. So like I'm always stealth when I get out there. I'm like, nobody look at me, because people are weird.
Yeah.
Really weird.
Yeah. Sure. All right, I'm going to go to a couple more of these before we wrap it up. So there is hope. In January, Deb Haaland, let me put this on the screen actually. January, Deb Haaland, a Laguna Pueblo woman from New Mexico, and Sharice Davids, who I actually met, a member of the Ho-Chunk Nation from Kansas, joined the U.S. House of Representatives as the first Native American women ever to serve in Congress. In June, the Librarian of Congress named the first Native American woman as U.S. Poet Laureate Joy Harjo, a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation.
Yeah, Muskogee.
Yeah, yes. I'm butchering it. I apologize. It's terrible.
No worries. I'm from Oklahoma, so I know these words.
Okay.
Yes, and that's awesome. I actually met Deb. She was at Red Earth Festival, so she came to my booth, and I was just like fangirl, because these are Native leaders that are now part of our government, and they are women. So that's amazing. even though we're like the most abused group, we are the most amazing and strong and beautiful and talented and intelligent group. And so that's why they're there. And I think that's amazing. I hope and I pray that it just continues that trend to go in that direction. I really, really do, because that's what we need now, is like a Native president.
There you go.
We need to restore the order.
Then we know everything is okay with the world when that happens.
The world will love us.
So what is this one? We want that for you to get up and keep going. Let's have fun. Lauren Reed, amazing.
Woo, 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 woo. Thanks.
Absolutely, symbol of hope. Raven, Lauren, will you be at the next Conception Art Show in Houston, whenever that may be?
I hope so. I'm hoping I'm at all the shows. I'm going to all of them.
Awesome. So, Lauren, thank you. This has been wonderful. We've gone way over time, but I'm sure we could have probably sat and chatted for another hour. Thank you for just being so open and candid about your history, your culture, your personal experiences. I think there's a lot of folks out there that will, leave this this conversation with, just a deeper knowledge and deeper respect for, your people and just history as a whole, as it relates to the, to Native American culture. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
And most importantly, tell us where people can find out more information about your artwork.
Well, I am Lauren J. Reed, and that's with 2 E's. And so I have an Etsy store.laurenjreed.com. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Lauren J. Reed. So you can't miss me. I'm easy to find. And I hope you guys will follow me and add me, and let's be friends. Awesome. I want to make you something beautiful.
She does make some really beautiful work and beautiful jackets too. So be sure to reach out to Lauren and get yourself something beautiful. And thank you, Lauren. It was a pleasure.
Yes, it was so good to see you.
All right, folks, we'll be back tomorrow, same time, for another edition of Coffee with Artists. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Yes, bye.